Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. Now today we have one of the most anticipated videos that there ever has been on this channel. I'm finally back. It's been 9 months, and today we have my Premier League predictions video. We're going to start from the 20th, go up to the 1st, talk a little bit about every single team, talk about some players that I think will be good, talk about some players that I think will be bad. And yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. 20th, Watford. Yeah, so starting off this video in 20th, I have put Watford. Now, some of the reasons for this are that they haven't really made as much movement in the market as some of the other clubs have, especially near the bottom. When you compare them to somebody like Norwich, I don't think they've made the same caliber of signings. They have kept hold of their star man, Ismail Assar, but I still don't think it's going to be enough for them to stay in the Premier League. Sorry, Ben Foster. 19th, Crystal Palace. Coming up next in the relegation zone, we have Crystal Palace. Now, the main reasons for Crystal Palace's demise this season, I feel, are going to be a couple of reasons. They've had a couple of key veteran players leave, such as Gary Cahill, who has been great for them for a couple of seasons. They've lost their manager in Roy Hodgson and brought in Patrick Vieira, who as a player was absolutely fantastic. And as manager, he flopped in the fucking MLS. He's going to struggle to get the group together this season, I feel. And number 3 is that I feel like Zaha's production is finally starting to fall a little bit. He can't carry the team as much as he has in previous seasons. So I think those are the 3 reasons that Crystal Palace are going to get relegated this season in 19th place. 18th, Newcastle. Now, rounding off the relegation zone is Newcastle. Might be a bit of a shocker, but I'll explain why. Now, I'm going to list the 3 reasons that I think Newcastle is going to go down the season. The number 1 thing is that they have a key injury to Martin Dubravka with an unknown return date. The number 2 reason for me is that they have made 0 moves in the market. They have signed nobody. They have let 5 players go out of their club. Yes, okay, they are not maybe the number 1 priority with people like Andy Carroll and Muto, and you know, they have a decent amount of strikers, but letting Lejeune go I don't think was that wise. And they have brought nobody in to compensate for that. Not even Joe Willock again after his great loan spell. And I don't even think he'll keep them up, in all honesty. And I think that the number 3 reason that Newcastle are going to get relegated this season is their over-reliance on Alan St-Maximin and Callum Wilson. If one of them 2 gets injured with 0 moves being made in the market, their whole season could be down the drain. I think they need to have more squad depth because they know they're going to be towards the bottom of the table. They need to add some players if they don't want to get relegated. It's close between them and the next team coming up right now. 17th, Southampton. So we have come to our first club outside of the relegation zone, and for me that is going to be Southampton this season. They're going to struggle for me because they have lost a lot of key players, especially with Danny Ings just going to Aston Villa, and they have only brought in Theo Walcott and this French left back, so I feel like they've lost more than they have gained. And last season, towards the end of the season, they picked up, I think, 2 wins from 15. So I think a rough season is in store for Southampton. Get ready for 17th. 16th, Burnley. Well. We come to the most interesting team in the video. Burnley. Oh, jeez. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that last guy. Security got him out of here. Pretty mental guy. What is he chatting about? Burnley? Jesus. Let's get back in the video. Anyway, so Burnley. Pope is injured. Kind of bad for them. McNeil is looking better than he has before. They somehow always survive. 16th, moving on. 15th, Norwich. Now this one might be a bit of a surprise to some of you, but I'm backing my boy Tempuke, Milt Rosica, and all the other guys at Norwich to actually stay up this season in the Premier League. Now, Norwich do start the season off really roughly, playing 4 out of the top 6 in the first 6 games of the season, but they do ease off towards the end of the season where it's really crunch time. A great signing for them has been Pierre-Lise Malou from Nice. I think he's going to do well. I think Billy Gilmore is going to bring some energy to that midfield as well, and I'm predicting Puke and Cantwell to have great seasons. So yeah, enough to stay up for me. 14th. Brighton. Yes, up next we have the we beat Man City in a game which didn't matter, but it was still so amazing. FC in Brighton. Anyway, in all seriousness, I actually think Brighton have a decent team, and I'm not like a Graham Potter worshipper. I don't think he's the second coming of Christ like some football hipsters do, but I do think he's a solid manager. And with their team, with players like Trossard, they just signed Mwepu. I think Percy Tau is going to have a breakthrough season. I think they definitely have enough to stay up. 14th. 13th, Brentford. Now this is my biggest shout of the video. Brentford in 13th. I think this is a big shout, and I'm going to explain why I feel that they're going to stay up, and convincingly. Now, even though Brentford have largely the same team as they did last season, they have still kept their key players, such as Ivan Toney and Brian Mbeumo, who I both think will have a great season this season. As a Finn, I'm hoping also for Marcus Forrest to most likely have an impact off the bench, and I think they have a good enough squad to stay up. That's reason number one. Now, the other reason I feel Brentford will do well this season in the Premier League and stay up is what they're bringing from the Championship. They haven't been to the First Division / the Premier League since the 1940s. It's a long fucking time. And they're going to want a gun to stay in the Premier League as hard as possible. They're going to throw everything they have at it. All their players will be motivated. There seems to be a feel-good around the camp. So I think that's the other reason that they'll stay up this season in the Premier League. 12th, Wolves. Now, thanks to my homie Mike in the last picture, you can tell that the next club coming up is Wolves. Now, Wolves in the market have been decent. They made a couple of signings. Trincao from Barca on a loan is a good signing. And I think re-signing Ryan Aït-Nouri, who played around 20 games for them last season at left wing back, are both decent signings, especially considering Ruben Vinagre has left. But speaking about departures, Rui Patricio and Nuno Espirito Santo both leaving is huge for them. And that's why I think they'll miss out on top 10 this season. With Raul Jimenez back, that's always a positive. But for me, it's still not enough. 11th, Everton. And the next club, finishing off basically the mid-table before we get into the top 10, is Everton. Now, as for Everton, I think that this season is going to be super rough for them. Rafa Benitez, an ex-Liverpool manager, as their manager, I think is not going to work out at all. It's not going to gel at all. He won't gel with the players. He won't gel with the fans. They have an uncertain James who doesn't know what his future is, wants to stay at the club, but feels like he isn't wanted. It's just weird over there, man. Sigurdsson's antics aren't helping anybody at that club right now. Actually, anybody anywhere. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty going around Everton. They want to be in the race for those European places, but this season definitely won't be the season. I wouldn't be surprised if they're even lower than 11th. 10th, Leeds. Now, starting off the business end, in 10th place, I put Leeds. Now, as for why I feel Leeds will finish in 10th this season, well, they haven't really changed too much about their team, which for them, I feel like is a good thing. They need to have a great team spirit there because everybody has to be able to work under Marcelo Bielsa. That's the most important at Leeds. If Patrick Bamford can keep bringing in the goals, if Rafinha can keep up from where he left off last season, and if Jack Harrison can keep up his great form, the only thing that I feel like will slip them up a little bit is their tough holiday season fixtures. They have a lot of the big clubs in that sort of period when you play a lot of games. But overall, I think it's going to be a good season for Leeds and 10th place. 9th, Aston Villa. Coming up next in 9th, I have put Aston Villa. And in all honesty, this was probably one of the hardest teams to predict in this video for the sole reason that we don't know how they're going to do without Jack Grealish. We will only see that once the season starts to go on. But since this is a prediction video and we don't know that, I have to just say how I feel. And how I feel is that I think Aston Villa are going to do totally fine without Jack Grealish. They've made a lot of reinforcements that are very good in the market, such as Leon Bailey and Emiliano Buendia. Those are two big signings for them. Danny Ings from Southampton was also a big deal. And I think Ashley Young will bring some veteran experience into that changing room. So overall, I think Villa have a good team and definitely good enough to get 9th, maybe even higher. 8th, West Ham. Now, possibly another surprising prediction is putting West Ham in 8th place. Now, some might view this as a surprising prediction for the reason that Jesse Lingard has now left the club and they do not have a backup striker if Mikel Antonio were to get injured. Now, even though West Ham have some obvious flaws, like I have just said, they have still kept their core of their group very solid. They still have Rice, they still have Soucek, they still have Gofal, who are all really good last season. They haven't lost too much in the market. Only Balbuena and Felipe Anderson who did not play. They've made a couple of decent signings in Areola and getting Craig Dawson on a permanent contract. And I don't think that their Europa League experience will last very long. Depending on their group, obviously, but I just don't see them staying there for that long. So that's why I think towards the end of the season, they'll be able to focus on the league more and make a push for 8th. 7th. Spurs. And now we have come to part of the video where we get to talk about clowns, aka Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Now, the Spurs clown show this year has been involving managers. Looked at about 10 to 15 different guys. Eventually found Nuno Espirito Santo, who I actually think is a decent manager. And at this current moment in time, their squad looks decent. Harry Kane is still there. Son has signed a big contract. Pierluigi Golini from Atalanta and Christian Romero from Atalanta are both good signings. For Spurs this season, there are 2 big questions. Number 1, what is Harry Kane's situation? Will he stay at Spurs? Will he sign a big contract? Or will he go to Man City and sign an even bigger contract and possibly win more trophies than he would at Spurs? And the second question for them is how they're going to deal with the Conference League. Are they actually going to take it seriously? Knowing Spurs, they probably will. The last time they won a fucking trophy was when my grandma was 20. So they could easily play their first team, which then, in my opinion, will hurt their Premier League season. So that's why I've put Spurs in this sort of 7th range, because I think if Kane stays and they don't take the Conference League seriously, they could maybe even be higher. But if they take the Conference League seriously and Kane leaves, they could even be lower. It's kind of a hard situation making a prediction for Spurs. 6th, Arsenal. Moving on to Spurs' North London rivals. In 6th, we have Arsenal. Now, the 21-22 season will be huge for Arsenal, especially for these people, at least in my own opinion. Mikel Arteta has to prove that he's a manager good enough to lead Arsenal towards European spots. Aubameyang has to prove he hasn't lost his touch, as last season was rough for him, and he has to get back to his form so that Arsenal have any chance of even getting 6th. And number 3 is that Ben White has to prove his price tag, and number 4, Thomas Partey has to stay uninjured and prove his price tag as well. If those things all happen, Arsenal are getting 6th at a minimum. But as of right now, none of those things have really happened. Some, fair enough. Obviously, Ben White hasn't really got to play. But for example, Partey is still injured. He'll miss about 3 games at the start of the season, which are all tough fixtures, by the way. We have to see how Aubameyang does. We have to see what sort of tactics Mikel Arteta employs. So it'll be an interesting season for Arsenal. The no European football, I think, will help them a lot in the league. And I think by the end of this upcoming season, they will be in a European place. 5th, Leicester. And now, heading up to the Midlands with Leicester in 5th place. Now, Leicester 2 seasons in a row have flopped out of the UCL spots, and I'm predicting that it might happen again. But for me, the reason this season isn't because some sort of collapse at the end of the season. It's because I actually think they're going to go far this season in the Europa League. I think that they have the squad for it. They have Vardy, they have Maddison, they have 2 new signings in Boubakary Soumare and Patson Daka, who will help the squad depth. Ndidi is still there. Schmeichel is still there. They have a great overall team. Castagne, when he comes back from injury, will be a great addition as well. Ricardo Pereira is back. So they have a great overall squad, and I think if they go far in Europe, they might even drop out of this 5th place. But if they don't go that far, like I think, then this 5th place should be a lock. They might even be higher. 4th, Liverpool. Now, starting off my top 4, I have put Liverpool in 4th place. Now, for me, why Liverpool will be in 4th and will not challenge for the Premier League title yet again this season is because of 2 reasons. The first reason is because how much pressure is on their squad's shoulders. After a complete flop of a year last year due to mainly Virgil van Dijk's injury, players like Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino have more pressure on their shoulders than they ever have before because they did not perform when their other players went down last season. They have to show their quality this season, otherwise they could even be on the chopping block. And the number 2 reason why I feel like Liverpool's title push this season will fail is because of their non-existent movement in the market. Their only signing this window has been the signing of Ibrahim Konate from RB Leipzig, who is a good signing and a good center back. But when you look at Liverpool's center backs, they have Virgil van Dijk, who's now come back from injury. Joe Gomez, who's a good center back. Matip, who's a good center back. They signed 2 different center backs in the January transfer window because they had to. So he's going to be dealing with a lot of competition at Liverpool. And they haven't reinforced in other areas, which I feel would take pressure off some of the star players in some other games. When you look at how much pressure gegenpress puts on players, and when they've been in that sort of system, some of them for over 5 years, I just think that those elements together will combine for a 4th place finish and nothing better. Third, Chelsea. This time, I'm not back. It was still me. It was me the whole time. And I'm very fucking pissed still. Anyway, moving on to serious business. Chelsea do have a great overall squad. Tuchel showed what quality he has by getting to an FA Cup final and obviously winning that Champions League final last season. He's brought in a couple of new additions. One of them is Romelu Lukaku, who is huge because they had Timo Werner up front last season who couldn't fucking hit a barn door. So I think that addition for them is big. I think that Kai Havertz will have a decent season this year, at least better than what he did last year. I think Ziyech will have a good season. And their defense looks better in this 3-back system that he does play. So 3rd place finish for Chelsea next season. Second, Man United. Now, the top 2, and in second, I have put Manchester United. Now, unfortunately for me, Man United have made some incredibly strong transfer acquisitions this season. They've signed, obviously, Jadon Sancho from Borussia Dortmund on a pretty good deal. And they signed Rafael Varane from Real Madrid. So that's 2 key players in areas where they were struggling a lot, especially last season. But what I feel will hold them back from winning the title, I think they'll challenge for the title the whole season. It'll be similar to 11-12. It'll definitely be similar to 11-12. But the only thing holding them back from winning the title this season is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as manager. If there was anybody else as manager, I would have honestly maybe put Man United in first. And as a City fan, that would have been maybe the most horrible thing I've ever done in my whole entire life. But yeah, Man United have an extremely solid defense, especially now with Varane joining Maguire, Shaw, and Wan-Bissaka at the back. They now have Sancho to reinforce in the midfield and the wide areas where they didn't really have that much last season other than Rashford. And now with Bruno in the middle, if he can keep his production levels up, then that's going to be huge for them. And up front, they have Cavani, who showed his class last year, and Greenwood, who can also play there, and also on the right, who shone through towards the end of last season. In my book, Man United are a CDM and a world-class manager away from challenging for the Premier League title every season. Something that I definitely wouldn't want, but would be a reality if they got those 2 acquisitions. For now, though, 2nd place. First, Man City. Oh my goodness, what a shock. A Man City fan putting Man City in first. Oh my god. I guarantee you guys, none of you guys could have guessed this. Absolutely impossible. Impossible. Anyway, beyond the biasy comments that I know are coming in the comment section down below, I'm going to explain myself and why I feel the Premier League title is staying on the blue half of Manchester. Now, there are some main reasons why I feel we're going to bring it home again this year. The first one is that even with Sergio Aguero leaving, we still have the deepest squad in the whole entire league. We can field a second team that's better than most teams' first team. So we still have most of our first team players. Some might leave in the upcoming days, but I still feel we have the deepest squad in the league, even if somebody like Bernardo Silva would leave. And the second reason that I feel we are going to bring it home is that we have the most creative talent in the whole entire league. We've just signed Grealish. We'll have De Bruyne when he gets back from injury, which will hopefully be soon. It'll be sooner than Foden, who is out for about a month. But when all of those 3 are going to be working together, it's going to be like magic on the field. So I think they're going to really gel together. They have very similar play styles, especially De Bruyne and Grealish, because Grealish literally models his game off De Bruyne. And if we do get Kane, I think that whole squad in itself is just unstoppable. And with our defense getting so much better, I just don't see anybody beating us to the league title this season. The only thing that could maybe trip us up this season is if we sell too many key players. So if we get rid of Bernardo, Jesus, and Laporte, who apparently all do want to leave for different kinds of reasons, if we were to get rid of all those three, I think that might actually hurt us a decent amount, especially with Laporte, because then if Ruben Diaz or Stones gets injured, then we're basically in the mud. We're like Liverpool last season. So I think it's important to keep hold of a majority of those three players for this upcoming season. If that happens, then, as I said, I don't see anybody stopping us. But yeah, guys, we have finally come to the end of this amazing video. I hope you guys enjoyed viewing it half as much as I did making it, because honestly, this was a lot of fun to make. If you guys did enjoy this video, please remember to smash that like button down there. Subscribe button is on the side, somewhere down there as well. And if there's anything you guys would like to see me do, remember to leave it in the comments down below. I'll be reading most, if not all. And that's all from me for this time. See you guys later. Take care and peace.